These are pumpkin turnovers, a classic and island favorite. This flaky and buttery pastry is filled with 100% pure pumpkin, a dash of cinnamon, and is gently sweetened, and it's not overly spiced or bland. Let's make turnovers both baked and fried. Pastit or baked turnovers, these are baked in the oven for about 40 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Buchi Buchi or fried turnovers, they are fried till perfectly golden. I'm using pure canned pumpkin, but you can totally use fresh pumpkin. Before you work on the dough, go ahead and pour the pumpkin puree into a strainer to strain any excess liquid. I'm adding 3 cups of flour, 1/4 cup sugar, and I'm adding both of this to a medium-sized bowl, and I'm going to stir to combine both the dry ingredients. You'll need 1 stick butter. This is actually salted butter. It's what I had on hand, but you can totally use any stick butter as long as it's real. And you're gonna slice up the butter and add it to the dried ingredients. And then I'm gonna add a few tablespoons of water. You wanna do this little by little, and you're gonna stir to combine. And basically the whole plan here is to fold everything together with a spatula or by hand. And you don't wanna mix too hard because we want chunks of butter in the dough, and this will just give you a flakier crust. So go ahead and use your hands and gently knead dough for a few minutes. So here's some dough, some of the mixture, so you can kind of see how there's still little chunks of butter. And then just get the remaining dry ingredients, the flour, and toss it on top and combine everything together just to make sure you have the perfect consistency. You don't want it too sticky. It should look something like this. Now I'm dusting a clean surface with flour, and I'm going to separate this dough into about 12 golf-sized balls. I'm just rolling it in between my hands, and I know the dough is good because it's not sticking to my hands and it's just rolling perfectly, and this is kind of what you want. And I'm going to separate about 12. You may get a little bit more, maybe a little less, but around 12, and then just set this to the side once completed. If needed, add a tablespoon of cold water to moisten your dough. If it's too moist or sticky, sprinkle a tablespoon of flour and dust dough. Do this until a smooth ball is formed. To make the filling, I went ahead and shook the strainer to get rid of anything else that was still there. And this is 30 ounces of pure pumpkin into a pot. Go ahead and discard all this excess liquid. And I'm just going to basically do this process, warm up the pumpkin for a couple minutes. And I'm going to add 1/2 cup of brown sugar, and I'm going to stir to combine. This is light brown sugar. Some people do regular white granulated sugar or dark sugar. I also added a teaspoon of cinnamon, and I'm just stirring everything together. Now is the time to taste test. If you want it sweeter, add more sugar, or if you want more cinnamon, add more cinnamon. And then once all of that is stirred together, go ahead and pour it into a bowl and set it to the side. So we're getting closer to making the turnovers, and here I'm using a tortilla press or a rolling pin. You can use a plate, you can use your hand, whatever you want. Right now I seem to find the tortilla press a little bit more easier, and this is how I do it. Also, you don't want to flatten all the dough balls. You want to do it one by one as you're making the turnover, and this will help because if we flatten all the dough balls, the dough will collapse. So we want to do it one by one, and let me show you how to do it. Here I have parchment paper. These are already pre-cut, but I went ahead and folded it. You can use it like this. You can cut it up into circles, squares. I do it a bunch of different ways, but these are the parchment papers that I had on hand, and I just need 2. And I'm going to place the dough in between and add a little flour so it doesn't stick. I used to use a rolling pin. I think I even once did it by hand, like just flattened it in between my hands, old school style. But I found this online a while ago, and this actually is super quick and easy. And it just does a job, and I found this online on Amazon if anyone's interested. But this is how it should look. Somewhat of a thin tortilla, a little bit different texture and style from the actual Guam classic empanadas, but I'm going to show you a different way on how to actually make it into a thin circle like this. Now to make the turnover, I'm adding the dough to a clean surface or a plate in this case. And I'm adding about 2 tablespoons, more or less, depending on how big the dough is, into the center of it. And I want to fold the dough over, and using your finger, I'm going to gently press or pinch the edges together, just like this. You could also have folded the actual turnover in between the parchment papers, but this is pumpkin, so it does get messy. I mean, having the pumpkin out of the turnover, like leaking out, is inevitable. You're gonna have 1 or 2 of those, but I just find it a little bit easier to control and to handle when it's on a flat plate like this. Feel free to leave your turnover looking like this, but to give it that look, you can go ahead and crimp the edges with a fork. I've seen this done numerous ways, so it's totally up to you. So since this is the baked turnover, a pastit, I'm going to pierce 2 vents in each turnover to vent steam. And I'm going to place this on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. You can also do 1 pierce, some people do 3, but just make sure you pierce it so that the steam can actually vent out properly when baked. To reduce chances of the filling leaking while baking or frying, I usually freeze before they are cooked. This is totally optional though. Leaks are inevitable, as mentioned earlier, at least for a couple of the turnovers, and I'll show you what I mean. Here, I'm basically just putting the turnovers on parchment paper. You can line them up on the sheet. Just make sure that you roll them up or put them where they're not touching each other, and freeze them for about 2 to 3 hours. So another way to flatten the dough ball is to add flour to a clean surface. Take your dough ball, roll it around, and then just get a rolling pin and flatten it out. Again, earlier I used a tortilla press. You can use a rolling pin like this or a plate. This is just another option. And I'm showing you this because I'm going to show you also how to make the Buchi Buchi, which is the fried turnover. Hopefully I'm not losing you during this video, but the instructions will be in the description below. I'm just trying to go with a step-by-step process. But for the Buchi Buchi, sometimes referred to as Buchi Buchi or fried turnovers, you're basically going to follow the same directions, except we're not going to pierce the turnovers. Instead of baking, we're actually frying these. So go ahead and add the 2 tablespoons to the center of the dough. Now fold the dough over, and using your finger, we're going to gently press or pinch the edges together. And here you'll see this is one of the turnovers that actually seeps through. Don't worry about it. This is totally normal. It's pumpkin. So I just want to let you know that not all the turnovers come out perfect. They taste amazing and they look great, but this is reality. So you'll have a couple of these. So these are the turnovers that will be fried, and I'm going to go ahead and toss this in the freezer. Now preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. These are the turnovers that were frozen and pierced that we are going to bake. I'm whisking 1 egg in a small bowl, and I'm going to brush the turnover with the egg wash, and I'm also going to sprinkle some sugar, and I'm going to bake this at 350 for about 40 minutes or until golden brown. Place your turnovers on a cooling rack before eating, and there you have it, pastit or baked turnovers, flaky, buttery good. Now for the fried turnovers, I'm going to go ahead and heat up oil no more than halfway full in a deep pot or pan, and I'm taking the frozen turnovers, placing them in hot oil, and I'm going to fry until crispy or golden brown, about no more than 5 minutes or so, a little less than 5 minutes. And then once you see that these turnovers are golden brown, they look like this, go ahead and place it on a cooling rack and allow it to cool. And there you have it. This is Buchi Buchi or Buchi Buchi or fried turnovers. They are perfect, so good, full of flavor, tasty, crispy to the touch. Listen to this. I hope you all enjoyed this easy recipe for baked and fried pumpkin turnovers. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and follow me on Instagram at Reese's Recipes for more easy, fun, and tasty recipes. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Many blessings.